Welcome to History Stories Dose, one story 10 parts, subscribe now.
Alexander had marched out of Egypt with relentless momentum. He had claimed powerful cities and survived brutal sieges, but his focus remained fixed on the final obstacle between him and the throne of Asia, King Darius III. Darius had spent his time gathering a sprawling army from every province of his empire. He pulled in warriors from Bactria, Media, and beyond, assembling a force far larger than the one Alexander had defeated at Issus. He chose the terrain with clinical precision. This image shows the site of Gaugamela in present-day Iraq. It was a wide, open plain that Darius ordered his men to clear and flatten, creating a smooth surface so his cavalry could surround the Macedonians. On this flattened ground, Darius planned to unleash his scythed chariots. These were designed with long, sharp blades attached directly to the wheels, built to accelerate into infantry lines and cut down soldiers in their path. This diagram shows the scale of the Persian advantage. Alexander led a force of approximately 47,000 soldiers. Across the field, the Persian lines were so deep and wide, they threatened to overlap the Macedonian flanks entirely. The numerical disparity was so alarming that on the night before the battle, Alexander's generals suggested a surprise attack under the cover of darkness to even the odds. Alexander refused. He famously stated he would not steal his victory. He wanted to defeat Darius in the full light of day, where the entire world could witness the collapse of Persian power. For Alexander, this wasn't about a simple military win. He needed a demonstration of total psychological dominance to ensure the Persian people knew their old empire was gone. At dawn on October 1st, 331 BC, the Macedonian soldiers stood and faced a Persian line that seemed to stretch forever. Alexander rode among them, reminding his men that they had already overcome impossible odds at Granicus and Issus. The battle began with the charge of the Persian scythed chariots. They thundered across the prepared plain, picking up speed as they closed the distance to the Macedonian infantry. This diagram illustrates Alexander's countermove. His soldiers were ordered to slide apart, creating narrow lanes. Once inside these gaps, the chariots were trapped. Light infantry surrounded the horses, neutralizing the weapon before it could do damage. Next, Alexander began a diagonal sprint at the head of his companion cavalry, baiting the Persian wings to follow. As the Persian cavalry moved to block him, their line stretched too thin, and a gaping hole tore open in the center of Darius's formation. This mosaic captures the decisive moment. Alexander immediately pivoted his cavalry into a wedge formation and charged directly into that gap, aiming for Darius himself. The fighting was savage. Macedonian spears pierced the royal guard as Alexander pushed closer and closer to the great king, turning the center of the battlefield into a meat grinder. Seeing the Macedonian cavalry break through his final line of defense, Darius's nerve failed. For the second time in his life, the great king of Persia turned his royal chariot and fled. Alexander had won by weaponizing the sheer scale of the Persian army against it. By forcing Darius's lines to stretch, he turned the empire's greatest strength into the vulnerability that destroyed it. Following the victory, Alexander marched into Babylon, which surrendered without resistance. He soon reached Susa, where he seized generational wealth in gold and silver that had been stored by Persian kings for centuries. Finally, he reached Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of the empire. These remaining towering columns were once part of a palace complex that represented the height of Persian power and glory. Standing in the throne room of the great king, Alexander had completed a journey that began on the borders of Greece and ended at the center of the known world. He was now recognized as the King of Asia. But the triumph was soon overshadowed. During a raucous victory celebration, a fire broke out in the royal palace. Whether it was a deliberate act of revenge for Greek temples or a drunken accident, the result was the same. These charred ruins are all that remain of the palace. In a single night, the center of Persian history was reduced to ash and rubble. Even with the capital destroyed and the empire won, Alexander remained restless. The conquest felt incomplete because his rival was still breathing. He refused to stay and rule from Persepolis. Instead, he ordered a pursuit, chasing the fugitive Darius into the rugged eastern territories. Alexander had not just defeated an empire, he had consumed it. He had become a king of ruins, a man who preferred the chase of a fallen enemy to the stability of the world he had just won.